This week for Black History Month, I speak with Monica Robinson, director of the Shenandoah Valley Black Heritage Project. Sit down with us as we focus on what it means to be a part of this program.
The mission of the Shenandoah Valley Black Heritage Project is to learn, share, and illuminate the rich history of African Americans throughout the Shenandoah Valley. So, our goal is to learn as much as we can, specifically through the eyes of those who lived it or their ancestors, and share that information with the people around the valley.
Although the program focuses on African American history, its origin is centered around an unexpected genesis.
The project was formed in 2015, and I have been very involved with the project pretty much from the start, but I'm not a founder. It was founded by my good friend Robin Lytle, who is a project designer out of the DC area. And when she first moved here, her and her husband, she realized that there was no African American history, nowhere to find out anything about African American history. And she wondered, as a white woman, why she had or we had no representation anywhere. Now, this project is very near and dear to my heart. And one of the things I liked about Robin's initial thoughts is that she has never once said, "This is my project, I started it, I saw the need, and this is where we're going to take it." She has been very good at saying loudly that I am a white woman who has entered into this space. I've seen a need, but I'm not the person who is supposed to be guiding that need.
With programs such as tours around heritage sites, volunteer opportunities, and internships at the Little House, people can learn more about the African American experience in and around Harrisonburg. Tell me about more initiatives under the project. I know you have some tours and some volunteer
Yes.
opportunities. So let's start with the tours. Tell me
Okay.
more about that.
In order to have people go into an area and not feel like they're running here, there, and everywhere, not really learning much at all, we decided the best way to approach that would be to set up a series of tours. So we have something called the Roots Runs Deep tours. We've taken the entire Shenandoah Valley, and people don't realize how big that is, and we've divided that into 5 regions. And most of the 5 regions contain at least 3 counties. And if there's a major city like Harrisonburg or Winchester, then the city, of course, is, thrown in there as well as a separate tour, not a part of the county. And so what we've done and what our end hope is that if someone comes into town and wants to know about Black history, they can start on a Roots Runs Deep tour in Harrisonburg. And if their travel plans are taking them north, then they will be able to connect to other tours all along their travel so that they can choose what, where, how much time they spend on these tours.
The process of preserving ancient burial grounds is one initiative the project is largely involved in. You talked about lost burial sites. Is there any work that goes into preservation of these sites? And tell me about that.
Yes. All right. So what we do, well, let me explain what it means when I say a lost burial site or we're uncovering a lost burial site. How this generally occurs is, say I'm at a reunion and someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, I was on my grandmother's property and I noticed a headstone that was turned over, but it was like back in the cow pasture area." And I asked my grandmother about it, and she said she thought maybe some African Americans, former slaves, might have been buried back there. And so that's how the uncovering occurs. And then what happens is we get permission from the private landowner to come in on the property and do a discovery mission. And so we go in and start nosing around and seeing what we can discover. And generally, how that happens is that you determine based on how many feet apart each person is buried, and you start looking for field stones, looking for anything. We start looking for different plantings, native plantings, that are indicative of a burial site. We look for intentional planting of trees that would form a hedge to kind of mark off the burial site. And once we start seeing those things, then we start making a plan. And then we gather volunteers to go out on a cleaning mission. So we do a little bit of training, and then we start clearing away years and years and years of debris. And as we get down to the bottom, we really start seeing that cemetery forming, and get that done. We make a plan how often we're going to come back and clean, usually twice a year. Make plans to gather funds to fence the area off, and if the landowners agree, we will put up a sign showing as much information we know about who's buried there. And then we just make a pledge to ourselves, a personal pledge as part of our mission here to maintain it.
Robinson also served as the first president of the NAACP Harrisonburg Rockingham chapter after reorganization of the once disbanded group. But it was her election to the Harrisonburg City Council that brought, quote, new attention to her professional and personal life.
This council, oh my goodness, in terms of historical heights, this council is majority African American. So we have 2 women and then 1 male. But it's also the majority women. So we have 3 women and 2 men, which is awesome, by the way. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely imperative that we tell that story over and over again, because I don't think that, well, I know it has never happened in Harrisonburg. And to be a part of that history change in a town that I have watched since we moved back here in the 70s, morph from this old sleepy town of not so inclusive and accepting ideals and people, and see it change from white black only to what it is today. It's just unbelievable for me. So I think that a lot of people don't necessarily understand the importance it is that we keep talking about it. Because I think that young girls need to see that, and young girls who look like me also need to see that just because there is one person on the council that looks like you doesn't mean that no one else should ever run. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes we get trapped in that. Well, there's already somebody black on there. Why do we need somebody else? Why not? Mm-hmm. Because we have been fighting for a space at this table for a long time. And I think now that the tide has turned in our favor and we have more than one seat at the table, it lets people know that this is a possibility that can exist. What it also has done, it has brought a lot of attention onto the project. People now are asking, where do you work? What do you do? So my position there definitely has had an impact on the Shenandoah Valley Black Heritage Project, on the Little House, as we call it. Mm-hmm. Because people who didn't know before want to know now. They want to know where we're located. We're located in the middle of the Black community.
For more information on the work Robinson does with the project, visit valleybblackheritage.org. Reporting for Breeze TV, I am Noel James.